So good afternoon, everybody. It's a happy day with us today as you're coming in to join our EdWeb and looking at strategies for effective read-alouds. That's going to be our session for today. So welcome. So let's get to our training. This training will allow you an opportunity to explore information about effective components for read-alouds and also provide you strategies for reading aloud to children and tips to boost share reading time. So lots of great information that we're going to be sharing with you as you deliver read-alouds to your children. My name is Claudia Castillo-Magallanez, and I am a member of the professional learning team at Frog Street. And I am very happy and excited to be joining my afternoon with you as we go through our presentation. A joint statement from the National Association for the Education of Young Children, better known as NAEYC, and the International Reading Association, IRA, states that the single most important activity for building the understanding and skills essential for reading success appears to be reading aloud to children. Very powerful statement, right? So let's take a look at our objectives for today and what we're going to be covering during our time together. An effective read aloud is a product of planning and practice, purpose, and care. Read alouds can stimulate, simultaneously provide children with an invaluable introduction to literacy, build their language, and also their vocabulary skills. But we also want to brighten their days with engaging stories. So our objectives for this session are to identify components of effective read-alouds, also plan and develop appropriate strategies for reading aloud to children, and strategies to engage children in learning and participation. Finally, towards the end, we'll briefly discuss ways to kind of stretch the story into learning center so that we can continue children's learning and offer them a little bit more. So to set the tone for our time together, let's begin by defining early literacy. Early literacy is what children know before they can actually read and write. And this involves what they know about and how to process language and communication to include verbal and nonverbal language and communication. So that's, kind of looking at the definition to get us started and kind of set the tone for our time together. Children are in the midst of a great leap in their ability to understand and use language. If they have been immersed in a language-rich environment during their infant and toddler years, they will begin to use 4- and 5-word sentences. As they approach their 4th birthday, they will begin connecting 2 sentences. So we see an increase there of what they're doing. Their working vocabulary, expressive language, will grow from about 900 words to over 2,300 words between the ages of 36 to 48 months. That's a big number, right? From going from 900 words to 2,300 words between those ages. And it has to do a lot with us offering them those read-alouds that we're providing because we're engaging them more in that vocabulary and giving them those sentence structures. So children become natural participants as they begin to repeat the words in stories and poems they hear again and again. Remember, repetition strengthens the wiring of the brain, so the more we give them, the better off they're going to be. Children develop a greater self-esteem and feel a sense of accomplishment as they too become storytellers. And that's the goal. We want them to be practicing that so that they can offer as well. So stories, songs, finger plays, and poems create a positive attitude towards reading. It also develops attentive listening skills, creates interest in story structure, develop rich language skills. They also help with developing phonemic awareness, something that is super important for us to begin that foundation for them. That rhyme recognition, for example, is one way to begin with that phonemic awareness. And we're increasing vocabulary. So children can listen to stories and use any props that we might offer them, whether it be puppets or any other props, for them to follow along as we're reading them stories as well. Children's literature provide the opportunity for children to see themselves, their culture, and their experiences reflected on the page. This reflection develops emotional intelligence. It also develops curiosity, creativity, cognitive skills, and empathy for experiences different from their own. So with the right prompting and instructional support, storytime is the perfect way to encourage children to develop their own opinions and also their own personalities. The definition for read aloud is a strategy in which a teacher sets aside time to read orally to children on a consistent basis from text typically above their independent reading level, but at their listening level, where that listening is the first skill that children develop within phonological awareness. And so we're giving them an opportunity to really set that foundation. Classroom read-alouds are a tried and true method for developing language and literacy in young learners. So again, by reading aloud to children, we're offering that opportunity for them to grow in those areas. The Chicago Literacy Project defines the listening level for children as the level at which they can comprehend the materials that is read by the teacher. When we read to children, we take advantage of the fact that until about the 8th grade, young people have a listening level that significantly surpasses their reading level. When we read aloud to children, we engage them in texts that they might not be able to read. In the process, we expand their imaginations, we provide new knowledge, we support language acquisition, build vocabulary, and promote reading as a worthwhile, enjoyable activity that children will really benefit from. So all children can benefit from being read to. Listening to a fluent, expressive, and animated reader can help children make connections between written and spoken language. So the more animation that we offer to them, the better we are. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So here's what children's authors are saying about read-alouds. The first one says, experts tell us that children need to hear 1,000 stories read aloud before they begin to read themselves. And this was based on a research from Mem Fox, Reading Magic, Why Reading Aloud to Our Children Will Change Their Lives Forever. Again, 1,000 stories read aloud to them in order for them to be able to really gain that knowledge that we talked about a little bit earlier. Here's what researchers are saying about read-alouds. The most important activity for building the knowledge and skills eventually required for reading is that of reading aloud. In this, both the sheer amount of and the choice of reading materials seem to make a difference. And this is by Marilyn Jagger Adams, Beginning to Read, Thinking and Learning About Print. So again, we're offering them many opportunities for learning, and we're prepping them. We're preparing them for what they need to have in future years. We're setting that foundation. So let's explore some benefits of read-alouds. Children have opportunities to experience empathy and compassion. That's the cornerstone of kind citizens. The reader and the child develop a positive relationship. Also, children experience the joy of literature, leading to a lifelong commitment to literacy. So if you ever see those children that are continuously choosing different books and that they're very engaged in their reading, we have set the foundation starting with them early on, giving them many opportunities to really enjoy and love the reading, love the books. So the following guidelines are suggestions for read-alouds. We want to make sure we have interactive read-alouds that are effective in whole or small group settings, or even on one-on-one, giving them an opportunity to work in smaller groups. We also want to introduce children to the fundamentals of print, how books are constructed, what an author does, or who he is, what the illustrator does, all kinds of different things that we can get out from introducing the child to those fundamentals of print. We also want to help children develop listening comprehension skills that will directly impact their future understanding of the written words. We want to familiarize children with the alphabet and raise phonological awareness in both languages if we have that opportunity to do so with children. And then build children's vocabulary. And again, when we have English language learners, we also want to offer an opportunity to address the languages that are within our classroom. We want to introduce children to the techniques they will need to read independently and to write their own classmate books and journals. We're preparing, who knows, maybe a writer or an illustrator within our classroom. So offering them an opportunity to practice those skills early on is going to benefit them in the long run. We also want to increase children's general knowledge and breadth of interest in their world. And we want to demonstrate that reading can be fun. Foster a positive, again, lifelong relationship with those written words that they get to experience and work with. In reflecting on what reading allows teachers to accomplish, reading aloud is valued added in the classroom experience. So we're going to review a couple of important points for us to keep in mind as we plan read-alouds. Reading aloud allows teachers to model fluent and expressive reading and model the reading process, which research shows that teachers reference print in fun and meaningful ways during read-alouds by tracking and pointing to print or embedding questions and teaching about letters, print concepts, or phonological awareness. This style of read aloud can be a significant impact on young children's print knowledge. So again, giving them that foundation for what's coming next as they move on to upper grades. Now, where can we have those read-alouds, right? Really anywhere. Read-alouds can happen almost anywhere within our building. Learning centers can be a place, one-on-one when we're addressing children on a one-on-one status and working with them a little bit more because we want to gain a little bit more knowledge of what they know and what they can do. Learning centers is the perfect place. Also, large groups. Those are great for reading aloud to the whole class. And this is helpful when we're introducing a book to the children, maybe doing a picture walk, taking a picture walk, or have children predict what will happen in the story. Allow the children to be comfortable as they listen to the story. You can also read to have some read aloud to a small group of children. This can be powerful because each child will be able to participate more, and you will be able to be more responsive to individual children within that small group. Reading to one-on-one or one-on-two, also known as lap reading, may be especially important for children who are not read to at home because they do not otherwise get to experience that closeness and that positive feeling of lap reading. Reading aloud outside under a tree can be just as educational as reading aloud indoors. Children can make connections to real-world experiences when we're offering that opportunity. Also, depending on the book that we have, if it's something that they get to see in the book and then they get to see in their natural environment, they're able to make a stronger connection to those real-world experiences that they have had. So anywhere, we can read aloud anywhere within our building, giving the children various different opportunities for them to experience the reading a little different. So how do you decide which books to read aloud? And this can be a hard one, right? I know when I was a teacher, this one was a little bit hard for me. So picking good books to read aloud is a skill unto itself. Some books build knowledge, others build imagination. Some draw children in with well-developed plots, stories, and narratives. Other books fascinate children with mysterious characters. So this is true in any language, right? And I'm going to be using the word Spanish, Spanish language a lot just because research shows that 65% of our population within the United States, the second language that they speak is Spanish. And so I'll be referencing Spanish quite a bit during our time together. So choosing books in English and in Spanish that fit the classroom's current learning theme is recommended. Book selections should be age appropriate and also present situations that are culturally diverse and reflect children's interests. It's not unusual for children to let a teacher know what book they would like to hear. I've had those children that it was the same story every day for a whole month. That's what they wanted to hear. But we also want to consider what are some of the books that our children need within our classroom. So if you choose to read a book that a child recommends, it's really up to you to determine how to fit the book into your curriculum in a way that benefits the class as a whole. So making sure that we're considering the whole class within our classroom, every child within our classroom. Teachers generally read storybooks and other high interest materials. However, it is important to create opportunity for children to experience other genres. The term genre refers to a type or a category of literature that a book could belong to. So for example, when we read poetry to children, we are engaging them to alliteration and rhyming. When we introduce newspaper and magazine articles, we're exposing them to facts and fiction. Different genres allow teachers to model reading print design for different purposes, which is an important concept of print as well. So offering children a various high interest materials is going to provide us with more of an opportunity to expose children to a lot of different types of read-alouds. According to Jim Trelease, wordless books are an introduction to books and plotting for children who can't read yet. This is because we become picture literate before we become print literate. So children can read the book if someone helps them blaze or trail through the narrative initially. But again, providing them wordless books is going to be helpful as well. So don't be afraid to use wordless picture books when reading those books. Ask children questions such as, what do you think is happening here? And that's going to help with comprehension. We can also ask them, what makes you think that? And then kind of give them something from the book, right? That's going to help with inferring. What do you think will happen next? That's predicting. We're giving them an opportunity for them to be able to predict what's going to happen in that story. And then asking them that why is going to help with increasing their vocabulary and also their oral language, because they're going to be able to share some of what their thoughts are with us as well. Selecting and using culturally appropriate children's books is another area we need to focus on when supporting home language. And again, I mentioned that we're going to talk a little bit and tie in a little bit of the English language learner strategies as well. So when selecting books, look at each kind of book and make decisions about what really is the most culturally responsive and culturally respectful for your classroom based on the children who make up your classroom. So for example, a strategy might be learn a few keywords in the book to highlight when you're talking about the content. Or you can use questions, props, images, and make sure that those things are meaningful to the children. We know most children's books have pictures, but we need to take a look at those pictures and make sure that they really are understandable to the children, and that they also they're also free from stereotypes. We also want to make sure that you think about this as you support families in their choices of books and their use of books as well at home. There's a lot of great ways to help families share books with their children, especially when they have to stay home, right? We've experienced that for the past, 2 years now, 3 years almost. And so we want to teach our parents how to make sure that they're selecting the books. Public libraries have websites with lots of resources. So if you can't get out to get books, you can find free stories to read online on public library websites, and other resources that have online resources in multiple language. So again, just really giving parents some resources where they can select some of those books that are going to be appropriate for their children as they offering them books. Your collection should include books about people that represent all of the culture, languages, and ethnicities in your classroom. Also, books about children who are bicultural or show bicultural experiences. Books about immigrants and refugee experiences. Books that reflect a wide range of cultures, and many books about each culture because they're all so different. Books that positively show many different lifestyles, whether it be adoptive parents or single parent households, LGBT families, foster families, generational families, grandparents raising their grandchildren. We have all those types of families within our classrooms. So offering them an opportunity to really see themselves there is going to be helpful with making connections to real world experiences. Also, books that portray children with disabilities positively and as active, capable main characters of the books. Books that show female characters in positive, active roles that break gender stereotypes. Books that show male characters that break gender role stereotypes. And also books that feature men of color in positive roles and in roles as fathers. So again, giving them many different experiences for that. So here are some examples of diverse picture books. We see that book that says Dancing with Daddy. That's, again, bringing in some of that disability picture books. We have the little girl in the wheelchair, and so we're giving children an opportunity to see themselves there. We have disability picture books, immigration picture books with some of the books that here Rosa Song is it's a book on immigration. Social justice books, LGBT books, such as the book on the bottom right-hand side, Plenty of Hugs, that's Two Mothers with a Baby. So again, just offering many opportunities for children to get these books. You can find additional examples of diverse books at diversepicturebooks.com, and the link is on your screen. But again, giving children many opportunities to be able to see themselves within our classrooms. Other points to consider when selecting books, and this is for English language learners, but some of the strategies you're also able to input within your selection of books. Look for books that represent the languages and cultures of the children in your program. Books in Spanish about making tortillas over the open fire do not represent all children who speak Spanish. Likewise, the experience in the Spanish vocabulary in the story would not reflect the experiences of a child from, for example, Puerto Rico, because the dialect is different, right? So be sure that the content and illustration provide authentic representations of the culture. When the story takes place in modern time, characters should dress and talk as people in that culture, and how they dress and they talk. If the story takes place in the past, then we're gonna make sure that the illustrations reflect that the dress and the customs that are accurate in the past. Avoid books with illustrations of storylines that reinforce stereotypes that make certain groups seem foolish or disrespected. Also, one of the ideas in this bullet points is creating a committee to evaluate the books. That's forming a committee of whether it be the committee made up of staff, of families, of experts in a specific language, so that they can evaluate the books and languages and then bring them into the classroom so that, again, we're portraying the correct culture and the correct language. They can even work on creating a worksheet to evaluate those books, kind of like a rubric, and having that available as we're reviewing books that we're bringing into the classroom. Also, have people in that committee who speak the language and is familiar with the culture as they're reviewing the books, because we know that there are some books out there that are inappropriate stories, or they're not the true stories that happen within those cultures, or they have been poorly translated, or they're culturally inaccurate. So before we even bring them to introduce them to the children, if we have a committee that's really reviewing those, where we will be able to catch those things before they're presented to the children. Keep in mind that a child may not understand the dialect different from his or her own. Therefore, a book in one dialect may not be fully understood by a child who speaks a different dialect. So, for example, a child whose family speaks Latin American Spanish may not fully understand a book written for children who speak Mexican Spanish, because it's completely different. So we want to make sure that we're bringing in the right dialect for the group of children we are serving. It's optimal to have books originally written in the family's language and cultures. When these are not available, translation of books from other languages and cultures may be used. We just want to make sure that they are, in the correct manner, that we're presenting them to the children the way it's true to that culture. So thoughtful, thorough presentation is essential to a successful read aloud. One that is planful, playful, and purposeful. We're very intentional when we're doing that. Though it may be tempting to simply gather your children and begin reading, read alouds should be as meticulously planned as any other part of an early childhood curriculum. So make sure that you're setting aside time to pre-read any books that you intend to read aloud. Pre-reading will familiarize you with the material and also give you an opportunity to practice reading the book using appropriate gestures and tone, which, you will dramatize the story. So, for example, it's October, right? We're talking about Halloween. A Halloween story might be most effective if you tell it in a spooky tone versus if you don't. With any Spanish book, make sure that you know the country that it is from in the dialect. Doing a little bit of research beforehand will help you with the delivery of that story. Decide how to introduce the book to the children. Highlight places to stop. I remember I used to put little sticky notes where I was going to ask questions, or where I was going to pause and have the children predict, or connecting to the real world experiences. So really taking the time to kind of add those to your book is going to give you a better delivery to the children. Also, identify new vocabulary, both rare and root words, that you can either elaborate on during the book reading, so that, again, we can provide that information to the children. Select words that give clarity and meaning to the story. Rare words are not used often in young children's everyday conversations, and they are unlikely to learn the meanings of those words without hearing and discussing them in the context of a good book. So determine how you will present vocabulary words. Plan to give child-friendly definitions that explain the rare words in more concrete ways, or in ways that relate to the children's everyday experiences. So really giving the children a little bit more. Rare words are unfamiliar words that are essential to understanding specific topics. So, for example, carpenter and dump truck are rare words related to construction. So if we're offering that information to the children, they will be able to make more sense of the story. Also, prepare open-ended questions for discussion. Again, taking that little sticky note and writing them and tagging that page will be very helpful. Plan how you will extend the story into other activities and into all of your centers over the course of the day and week. And we have some tips to give you towards the end of the presentation, so stay tuned, but have that available so that we're extending the story into other areas of our classroom. And then also consider why you're reading the materials you selected and whether you are staying true to the goals that you have for the children. So, for example, if intent was to differentiate instruction, check and see, was that accomplished? Did I actually meet that goal? Also, background knowledge can support children in preparation for the read aloud. Background knowledge offers children information to support their thinking process as the book is being read to them. So really offering many opportunities for the children so that they can make connections to the real world as we are reading to them. So let's watch a video about the importance of children, of the importance of us reading to children.
Sharing a book with a child is one great way to support language development and foster a love of reading. So be sure to share books every day. Sit in a comfortable position so both you and the child can see the book's words and pictures. Introduce a book by briefly calling attention to the book cover. Focus a child's attention on the picture and then point to the title of the book and read it. Occasionally, move your finger under the lines of print as you read to demonstrate that words move from left to right. Teach little ones how to hold a book and help turn the pages. Bring the story to life. Use sound effects or special voices for characters. Ask a child to point to specific pictures in the book. Substitute a child's name for a character's name. Make connections between what is happening in the book with the child's life or your life. Read this same book again later in the day or on another day. Children will enjoy the book more each time you read it. Talk about the same things and use the same words. Repetition helps wire the brain. Most importantly, have fun. Make it special. Children develop their love of books in part by spending this special time with you.
So lots of tips and strategies, right, that we've already covered, that we kind of been looking through, but let's dig in a little bit deeper into those particular items that we've already heard. So looking at read aloud strategies, when we talk about gathering the children, reading a book aloud for the first time, usually it normally is a whole class, right? Bringing the whole group activity together. Use your observation during this time and assess to decide how and when to break the class up into smaller groups. Again, we're looking at all of the children in one group, and if we have 17 plus body in front of us, it can be difficult for them to not engage within those areas. Set the mood. A little bit of effort can go a long way in setting the right mood for a given story. Use music, a costume, or even simple props that can enliven a read aloud. So maybe if you're reading Sleeping Beauty, you can bring in a hand mirror while you're reading the story. If you're reading the three bears, you can bring some of the props that are going to help children make connections to the real world. Also, think about the way you position yourself. Make sure that all of the children can see you and the book. And we hear that all the time, right? We hear the children in the back, I can't see, teacher, I can't see. And again, we're trying to position ourselves to where everybody can see us. So think about that before you even sit down with your book. You know, where am I going to be positioned to where all the children can see me? Another thing that we want to think about is how the children position themselves, right? A lot of the times we want to have them sitting down, crisscross applesauce and your hands on your laps, right? That's a very common one. But think about what that does. When you're sitting down crisscross applesauce with your hand on your laps and you're in a training, are you really listening and paying attention, or is it stressing you more out because you're so stiff? So when I was a teacher, I remember I had children sitting down. Some were sitting down crisscross applesauce on their own. Others were laying on the carpet. Others were, and it was still them listening to the story and imagining and, you know, interacting. So again, think about those things that are really going to help the child relax and still be able to listen to you as you're reading the story. It's also important for them to be able to see the illustrations and to understand that the words that they're hearing are connected to what they're seeing. The words they see on the page and the book's pictures are all telling the same story. And though most of early childhood readers are pre-literate, it is developmentally useful for them to see you move your finger from left to right across the page as you read aloud to them. So again, we're giving them a lot of different skills for them to be able to listen and really learn from that story that we're giving them. So here are some tips for to consider before we read the story. After you have pre-read, remember we have to prepare ourselves first. After you have pre-read the book, you intend to read aloud and have planned accordingly, there are a number of things that you can do to get the most out of the read aloud activity itself. The specific techniques that are recommended for use before reading, we look at identifying who the author is, who wrote the book, identifying the title, or call attention into any important parts of the book for young children. In our effort to support their learning of print concepts, we should be consistent with our assistance. Picture walks for young children can stand alone as a reading experience. The conversation of front-loading experience they can gain from a picture walk will support their listening and comprehension for the next read aloud of the same story. Tell what the story is about, a brief overview, such in this story, and then kind of, bring that information up. As we continue to open up conversation, ask questions to active prior knowledge of book content. Always linking it to children's experience because it allows children to participate and we can listen to their thoughts and ideas, which is a great part for us to consider as an assessment opportunity. Ask children to predict. What do you think will happen what do you think will happen next? Or what is the story about? Or how do you think this will end? All those are great questions for us to bring up when we're doing our read aloud. Verbalize one reading comprehension strategy that readers think about as they read. Teacher thinking out loud about making connections and predictions during the reading. Also give purpose for listening to the story. As I read, listen for, and we're giving the children a little bit more of, something that they can wait for and consider as we're reading to them. Things to consider during the reading. Read with expression to capture children's attention. And we kind of already talked a little bit about that, but this includes using a variety of voices for characters in the story, making sounds or movement as indicated in the story. We want to add all those effects that go into the story. Also, ongoing interactions. Those support the enjoyment of reading. So those ongoing interactions are important. It's important to listen to children's thoughts and ideas during this time. Again, great assessment opportunity. Response and dialogue helps with engaging children and supporting them in their thinking process. Also help children notice aspects of the text by either pointing to words as you read the story and ask simple closed questions, and also use open-ended questions or prompts to encourage discussion of the book. Give child-friendly short explanations of new words. So, for example, dangerous means not safe. Very simple and to the point, not giving them too much. Have children join in saying keywords or phrases. We know lots of our books have, for this age level at least, have a lot of repetitive keywords. And so by the time we're done reading it, children already grasp where they're going to repeat those phrases. So have them join in. It's okay for them to join in and say whatever's coming next. Ask children to quickly act out important words or ideas in the story. Let's all pretend to fly like a bird. And, again, we're giving them a little bit more of key components for them to connect to real world experience. Verbalize the strategy that's introduced before the reading. And then also discuss what is happening in the illustration. Again, helping them make connections to real world experience. So think aloud. Children are not aware of metacognition. Metacognition is the process and ability to think about and be aware of one's own thoughts. So thinking aloud supports young children in the process. It aids in building a strong thinking process. The more we practice it, the better off you later are going to be hearing children thinking aloud when they're coming up with their own ideas during their work time or during their play. Teachers should model think aloud. It supports children in processing their thinking and what can do if we encounter problems in when reading. So again, they're making connections, they're seeing images, they might be encountering ways that they can fix a problem. Again, we're giving them opportunity for them to experience that and practice it as well. Revisit the purpose for listening to the story. It should be the same as stated before reading. Revisiting the text helps children to recall the story. If predictions were made, we want to revisit them. Oh, remember you predicted this correctly, or what did you say that it was what's going to happen? Is it the same in the story? And kind of bringing that to life. Compare and contrast the results. Ask knowledge level recall questions for which the answers are in the text and have right or wrong answers. Summarize the story. Ask higher level questions and open-ended thinking questions. Answers to this are within the text and have those right and wrong answers again. Also, another thing that we want to encourage the children to do is sketch to sketch. And sketch to sketch is simply to allow children to go and draw a picture of what they saw or what was read in the story to them. Another thing that we can do is provide graphic organizers. Graphic organizers such as KWLs, Know What to Know and Learn. Charts or story maps allow children to make visual connections of what was read. So really giving them an opportunity to extend that learning that they gain from reading the story. So let's look at read-aloud extensions. After leading an effective read-aloud, there are a number of recommended center activities that you can use to stretch your children's understanding of the story and also to deepen their learning experience. The story stretchers can be used both on the day that the read-aloud took place or throughout the week. These activities can include using puppets or props as well as more elaborated dramatizations to retell the story. In each case, the teacher first models the activity, then the children participate in a teacher-guided version of the activity. And finally, the children are free to explore the activity independently. So again, we engage in story extensions by retelling, acting out, story mapping, or sequencing. We interact with the letter wall with new letter words that maybe we learn from the story. We also extend some read-aloud content into centers or small groups. And then we can extend some read-aloud content into some of our lessons that we're doing with the children one-on-one or in a small group version. So giving them an opportunity to really experience a little bit more. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to show you in the following slides an example of a story kind of drawn out into the different learning centers. So here we have the dot, and everybody's very familiar with this story. We're going to see it come alive in our classroom throughout learning centers and also instruction time. So I'm going to give you some examples of how you can connect it in the writer's corner, in the math and science and creative station, just bringing it up to all of the other areas of the classroom throughout our day. So here we have the writer's corner. We want to set up a writer's corner with writing tools and writing paper. We want to provide the children different textures that will allow for more creativity. We also want to remind children that everyone can contribute to the class art show at the end of the week, because that's what we're creating our art for, right? We're going to suggest children create a story or draw an illustration for the art show. And we're going to teach children to sign their name on their illustration. So what are we teaching children? We are teaching them how to write their own name. We are allowing for creativity, and we're also allowing for self-expression. They're communicating their own ideas. So we can ask the children, so that we can engage them a little bit more, we can come and ask, tell me about your illustration. What were you doing, or where were you? And kind of asking them a little bit more. Here we have it extending the dot to our math center. We can invite children to use the 10 frame dots to count out number sets. You can add small dots to match the maths as children count them out. Children can make up a story about the dots. I painted 3 dots on my paper to create a flower. So again, we're giving them a lot of opportunity for them to extend that learning into another area of development. We can, for science, we can invite children to be scientists and investigate color mixing. This activity provides students the opportunity to predict, explore, observe, test, examine, and also collect data as they do the color mixing experiments. They're investigating within those activities as well. So lots of opportunity for learning. Connecting the dot to creative station. We can invite children to create a dot picture using a variety of art materials. And we can ask children to share with you about their dot picture. And if they allow you to, you can write that on their paper. And we can ask them things like, why did you choose these colors? Or tell me about your creation. And we're developing self-expression, creativity, eye-hand coordination. And also we're giving them an opportunity to explore the different material that is provided to them. For fine motor development, we can challenge children to sculpt with Play-Doh, using a dot first, then using their own techniques and ideas. So we can ask children to describe their creations. What inspired you to choose this as your sculpture? Or what actions did you take to create your sculpture? Did you imagine the sculpture before you started working on it, or did it just come about? So, again, just giving them a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, we're having them have that control and strength of small muscles, eye-hand coordination, and also they'll be able to compare and categorize. Here we have gross motor. Again, we can create big color dots and invite children to arrange the dots into a design. We can suggest they walk around the design to see what it looks like from different points of view. Point out that children can create many different designs because the dots are movable. So again, we're giving them lots of different opportunity for them to learn and explore. In the Pretend and Learn area, we can set up an art studio gallery. Here, children are going to be able to add their illustrations throughout the week, and then have children take on the role of artist or host or the audience to admire the different illustrations displayed in the Pretend and Learn area, better known as dramatic play, right? So again, giving them plenty of opportunity for them to engage. So I hope those activities will be able to kind of motivate you and kind of give you some ideas to extend those reading alouds into other areas of the classroom. So as we kind of close out our session, I would like to leave you with this quote. Children develop 3 times more high-level vocabulary from listening to a story than from a conversation. This came from Treelise. He reports that children's books contain about 31 uncommon words per 1,000 words. That is 3 times more than what is heard in a conversation, and 25% more than what is on a television program. So as you introduce those new words to children, describe its meaning, and if possible, connect it with previous knowledge and make that story come alive, that's exactly what you're doing with children and the knowledge that you're giving them. So most of the books and activities I shared with you today came from our pre-K Frog Street curriculum. We at Frog Street are very proud of all of our curriculums. So if you haven't heard about pre-K or any of the curriculums within our continuum, and would like more information about this or any of the curriculums with our continuum, please write on the chat box, contact me. And we will make sure that we contact you and provide you with more information about our offerings. I would also like to remind you that we have a wide variety of professional learning opportunities at Frog Street. And currently, we are providing an opportunity for you to receive 25% off your next virtual professional development training to be delivered either in November or December of this year. If you are interested and would like more information, again, please contact me in the chat box or use the link on the screen to reach out to us. As we get ready to close out our session, I would like to invite my colleague, my very dear friend colleague, Jody, onto our screen so that she can tell us about our giveaway opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Claudia. This was chock full of great information, lots of strategies, wonderful examples and ideas with beautiful pictures. I saw somebody comment on all of your beautiful illustrations and classroom pictures. So thank you for all that you gave us today. Yes, I'm here to tell you a little bit about Early Literacy Library at Home. This is a giveaway today, but also this is a backpack. You can see Fernando here holding a little backpack that includes 35 different titles that parents can enjoy. This is something that you can use as a lending library. Obviously, you can use it in your classroom as well, but this works really well with helping parents so that they can build new vocabulary and comprehension with their children and really extend that learning at home. So while Claudia was giving this wonderful presentation, I randomly selected a winner, and that winner today is Linda.
Congratulations.
Also, there is an e-guide that we've written that summarizes a lot of the things that Claudia talked about today, but some of the main ideas anyway. And that is available at our website. Here's a specific link that you can go to get this e-guide. So hopefully you can enjoy having, I know you'll get a recording of this, but you'll also have a takeaway if you wanted to have it printed. We are going to take a couple questions. There was some wonderful questions in the question box. And I know we won't get up to all of them today, but Claudia does get a list of these questions and she'll be able to answer them to you specifically. So one of the questions was, would your suggestions differ if parents are homeschooling their young children?
No, my suggestions would be the same. The only difference is that, of course, it's going to be a one-on-one. So right. When we became teachers, we realized that we didn't only become teachers of children, we also became teachers of parents. And so giving the strategies to the children and be able to help them get through those ideas is going to be super helpful, but it would be the same strategies, definitely.
Perfect. Now, we wondered if you had a list of culturally appropriate books, but I remember you did share a link.
Yes.
On one slide there.
Yes.
You can go and get some of those books too, right?
Yes. So if you go to that particular website that I had mentioned before, it's called Diverse Picture Books Bookshop. You will find a variety of books. I mean, there's books on there of social justice, immigration, LGTB, even recognizing and loving our bodies, just disability picture books, lots of different books that we can offer children an opportunity and just expose them to everything that there is to know, right, about the world. So yes.
Absolutely. I loved how you oftentimes mention connecting it to the real world. So that makes it more meaningful when they're reading stories and they can connect it to their world around them. Now, here's a question about bilingual, multilingual books. Should you explain what the words mean to students who don't speak that language, or let the child think and imagine what the words might mean?
So for that, I really want to bring the book that the child is going to understand. So I think about myself, and I'm giving you kind of an adult perspective, but think about it even more so for a child. So when you speak to me, my first language is Spanish. So if you're speaking to me, in my brain, I'm translating with my prior knowledge, which I've been here longer in this world than a 36 months, 48 months old has been in this world. I think about that and I'm translating it into my first language. And then I'm kind of making sense about it and bringing it back to the English that you presented to me. So if I have a picture, if you're showing me a picture and I can visualize and I know what that is, then it's making more sense to me. But if I have never heard that word and never experienced that before, and you don't have anything else to provide me for me to visualize, then I'm really not understanding what you're telling me. And you can ask me a million questions about it, and I'm not going to respond because I don't know it. I don't have that knowledge in my head in the
Hmm.
language that you're presenting it to me.
Right.
So,
Great. That's great information. That helps clarify that for sure. I think we have time for one other question. Can you please describe a picture walk?
oh, picture walks are my favorite. Picture walks is just really going through the book and talking about the picture that's in the book. What do you think it's happening? What do you see in the picture? Going through every single page. The children are getting to visualize or look at the picture and kind of start making an imagination of what's going to take place within the story. But it's just really walking them through each one of those pages and kind of talking about what they see. What do you see? What do you think it's going to happen? This is where we bring in a lot of those predictions. And then when we read it, we can highlight, oh, remember you said that this truck was going to flip over or whatever. That was a bad example, but, kind of bringing that to life and say it actually did.
Hmm.
Or what did you say about this? And kind of making more sense about what they talked about.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have today. I think we're at the end of our session. What is our next slide? We want to wish you well. I know from Claudia and I and all of the Frog Street team, we're so happy that you joined us today. Thank you again for attending, everyone. Have a
Yes.
great day.
Thank you. Thank you for attending. Y'all have a great afternoon.
We wish you well.
Wishing you well. Bye.